Welcome to video number 4 in this video series titled Configuring Windows Server 2008 Services. The title of this video is Setting Up Active Directory. The objectives of this video are to design our Active Directory infrastructure, to set up and install Active Directory, and to install the domain naming system. Once again, for Varsity College Pretoria, I'll be your host, Simukai Musiwa, on behalf of the Independent Institute of Education. It is now time to set up the services and the roles on our Windows Server 2008 server as we now test the capabilities of this enterprise server operating system. For me personally, one of the most important roles that is given to us by Windows Server 2008 is Active Directory. Not to say that the other roles are not important, but I think that central to many roles functionality is Active Directory, as you know it to be the authentication and authorization service for Windows-based networks. So we are going to set up Active Directory, and during the setting up of Active Directory, we are going to also set up DNS, because DNS is pivotal and vital in the functionality of Active Directory. So let us go ahead and look at a logical view of what our Active Directory forest is going to look like. We are going to create a fictional college called ABC College for the purpose of setting up our Active Directory. So we'll be using a domain name called abccollege.com. So we'll create a forest called abccollege.com, running at a forest functional level of 2008. And the first domain within this forest will be called abccollege.com, also running at a domain functional level of 2008. We'll have a single site within the domain, and this site's name will be Pretoria, represented by PTA, with a subnet of 192.168.0.0/24. So this basically is a pictorial view of what our logical Active Directory setup will be looking like. I am sitting on the desktop of my DC01, which is still a member of a work group. Okay, let me verify that this DC01 is still the member of a work group. By the time we finish installing Active Directory, this domain controller will now be a member of a domain called abccollege.com. Okay, I'll verify that there's nothing installed, there's no DNS, there's no Active Directory binaries installed. It's still a plain server. Okay, and it's now time to promote it from a work group to a domain controller. I could go and use the server manager and start by installing the Active Directory binaries, okay, but I find that the DC promo command does that for me. So typically I always omit that step where I go to server manager and install the Active Directory binaries using server manager. I'm just waiting for it to finish collecting data and give me that option. I just typically like going straight and running DC promo so that it installs the Active Directory binaries. In server manager, I will go and say add roles, server roles, and then select the Active Directory domain services. I am going to skip this step and go directly to use my DC promo command to promote this server to a domain controller. So I'm going to go and type DC promo, the Active Directory installation wizard, which installs the Active Directory domain services binaries for me. And take note that during this installation, DNS will be installed as well, as DNS is integral and required for the functionality of Active Directory domain services. Up comes my installation wizard. I believe that you're an advanced user, so we'll use the advanced mode installation. I'm going to click next. I get an operating system compatibility prompt, okay, just telling me the issues of compatibility with older versions of Windows servers. Okay, I am going to select to create a new domain in a new forest. Since we don't have an existing domain already, I'll select the top option if the forest is already created. I'll click next, and we had agreed that we are naming our forest abccollege.com. okay, so that's the fully qualified domain name of our forest root domain, the first domain in our forest. I'll click next. It's going to pass the NetBIOS name. I don't know if anybody still uses NetBIOS. Okay, so it's passed our NetBIOS name, ABC College. We click next. I'll be using a forest functional level of 2008, and I'll click next. Notice that when I select a forest functional level of 2008, it doesn't give me an option to select a domain functional level. It is automatically set to the highest domain functional level. If I was to choose a lower functional level, it will ask me to select a domain functional level. But in this case, we want to use the highest functional level. So I'll go with Windows Server 2008, and it will ask me also for the installation of a DNS server, as I don't have a DNS server. So this process will install the DNS server for me. I'll click next, and this prompt is just basically allowing me to install the DNS service. Okay, it shows me the default location of my NTDS, or my Active Directory files, and my sys volume files. I'll leave them at their defaults for the purpose of this video series. I'll put a restore mode password, and then I will start the installation of Active Directory and DNS. I'll go ahead and pause the video during the installation, and I'll see you after the installation of Active Directory has completed. Offline, the Active Directory and DNS installation went ahead and completed. I have rebooted this machine, and let us now verify and complete the Active Directory setup. I will go to Start Administrative Tools, and you can verify that Active Directory domains and trust sites and services, users and computers have been created. In a later video, we'll be using the Active Directory users and computers to create our different OUs, groups, and users for abccollege.com. So we have completed the installation of Active Directory. I'll quickly go over to Active Directory sites and services and create a subnet. I'll create a new subnet within Active Directory sites and services 192.168.0.0/24, which I'll attach to the default first site name. Okay, let me quickly rename that as well. We say that the name of this site is Pretoria, so we'll just say PTA. Okay, so I'll just verify that the subnet is attached to Pretoria. That's good stuff. Okay, and I'll verify that DNS has been installed properly. You can see there's my DNS console, and you can see my forward lookup zone for ABC College has been created. The appropriate A records and the appropriate name server records have been created. The appropriate service records, identifier records have been created. Alright, so that I know that my DNS has been set up and configured properly. By right-clicking my computer properties, I can verify that this computer is now a domain controller for the abccollege.com. Okay, you can see the abccollege.com domain and DC01. If I go to my Active Directory users and computers, in the domain controllers OU, I will see that DC01 is now a domain controller, which is also a global catalog. In this video, we managed to design our Active Directory infrastructure for abccollege.com. We set up and installed Active Directory, and we installed the domain naming system. I hope that you enjoyed, and I'd like to thank you for watching.